Hello and welcome to Two Marines in Kyiv. Tonight we've got co-host Andy Milburn, retired Marine Corps Colonel, former commander of Mozart Raider Regiment and Special Task Force that fought ISIS in Syria and beat back that threat. And current CEO of the Mozart Group, doing great things in training and capabilities, evacuation, and medical capabilities in Ukraine, helping the military in its capacity defending itself against Russian invasion.
And also Andy Bain, same first name, same background to an extent, also a Marine, and now CEO of the Ukraine Freedom Foundation. But more important than both of us is our guest. And we're going to simply call him Q. We're calling him Q not just to protect his identity, but those of you who are fans of James Bond movies and who could not be, will remember Q, the ingenious scientist who was kind of the brains behind the gadgetry that made James Bond License to Kill. And Danielle, very modest guy, but most extraordinarily adaptive scientist and army officer, and here today to talk about how the Ukrainian military has adapted to Russian tactics, techniques, and procedures. Great pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure, and thanks for invitations and greetings from Kyiv. My invitation's in Kyiv, so we are welcome you. Everybody who comes to Kyiv, they're brave and heroes right now.
It's very. We paid him to say that. That was from our sponsor. Every time that you have hosted us at your, we call it the kind of what's a place called Skunk Works, right?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the term from this is the Second World War, right? But it's kind of similar. The factory that you own. It's a very eclectic mix of warriors and gadgetry. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you transferred from being a businessman into this military scientist?
Yeah, it was basically 8 years ago when we started with a few journalists. We started a fund to support army, and accidentally, or occasionally, we have found that everything that we are buying for army, basically, it's only a few items, a few number of our gifts to army could be applicable for army. So we started to work closely with officers, with militaries, and understood that the question not in money. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't help to army just spending money. It just takes people maybe a moral rather than real efficiency.
Understanding what requirements are.
Yeah, requirement. We call it requirement. In Ukrainian, it's potreba. So our major word working with army since was potreba. So we ask army, what do you need? And after that, we got feedback. And that's helped us to bring, to create and to build the biggest company private company in one field in the military. We changed a lot of rules for 8 years because Ukrainian army was not privately owned. It wasn't privately owned companies on the market, military market. And now it's around 80% of all supplies to army comes from private owned companies.
Okay.
And it's a huge changes for these 8 years, and there are lots of success that you see on the Ukrainian front line. And in this war, it was due to private people, small groups and small companies which brought it.
I remember back in 2014, your firm developed an artillery spotting tablet that was used a lot, and with a Freedom Fund bought some of those and helped out. And it was really innovative because on the tablet you'd have the map, and a spotter could go up with the map on the tablet and just press where the enemy was, and it would get automatically fed back to the artillery unit, who could then send forward artillery. I actually took several of those back to the United States, and I took it to the Marine artillery battery and showed the battery commander, and they were really blown away by the capability that it had. The one thing they said at the time was the National Security Agency would not allow Marines to use it because of communication compromise, encryption.
It was way too innovative. It wasn't tied into the great industrial complex.
It was far too effective and done too inexpensively for the American military industry. But we toured your factory last month, and it was straight out of the James Bond with all the things you're coming up with. And we went into the room with the Molotov cocktail, specially designed to, and then the missile training system you had. And it's really fascinating. But if you talk more about what you were saying on how you're innovating and adapting, I think that's really interesting.
Really, what you said about first gadget and first software for artillery support, I wasn't the creator of that. I wasn't an engineer, saying frankly. It was the idea behind what I said. We joined with one team, small team, which had an idea, and we just given them some investments, some space to work. And this company now is number one group. I would say not company, because this is a group of people who supplied the software to the army. And this program now is about 90% of all the gadgets, all the artillery tablets on the market has inside. It's different. It's totally different. And now I would say that without the system, our artillery would be blind at all. Mm-hmm. But of course, I can ask people who created that next time to visit you, because without these guys, our success in army was much, much less. And my opinion that on that sample, it was very good. It was very good shown how small investments and working with people who are motivated to do such a things, not under pressure, gives you a very good result. Yeah. After that, we had lots and lots of products developed on with such an idea that we found the key people, which are saying that we have this idea, but we are people who can bring this technology, but we don't have, some common things to develop. And we started to invest in such small groups. We are engineers, so the major problem was we created a venture fund that started to started to invest to small ideas to people with some smart ideas. The most problematic behind that, the main problem behind that was requirement from army. Yeah. Because even if you have perfect idea, this is ridiculous. But the software were not bought by army. Only this. We have only one problem, which was minus investments. Yeah. It was this software. It's free of charge. Now it's like Android. It's free of charge to the market. But because it was done, behind that environment, around this program, it started to build new technologies. And these technologies is communication, as you said. Yeah. We started to invest to communications, which can connect these tablets around. After that, we started to produce devices that can be connected to this tablet. And finally, it started to be business, but not on the software. So that was I'm talking about. That sometimes you don't see direct way that our army is able to buy it. Because, for example, in this case, army has no way to buy software. It's stupid. Okay, sorry. It's stupid. There's
our going around.
Has no way to buy software.
Yeah.
Why? Because software development costs you millions of dollars. Yeah. And when you come to army and saying that, you're only one purchaser. You have no market around the world for thousands and millions of customers. And our program costs $1 million. And they say, no, but Windows cost us $100. How it could be? So it's ridiculous situations, but we understand that this is a system. And we cannot change it totally, in the purchasing way, in the procurement. Because procurement, it's another issue. But anyway, many companies became, I would say profitable and self-sustaining to create new technologies. It was mostly in hardware.
Mostly in hardware, but you've given some great examples across the board of once this most recent war started, the Russian occupation of very innovative solutions to some serious problems early on, serious requirements. Can you give a couple of examples?
I would tell you challenges that we now see, because many people around the world, they overestimated Russia possibilities. Ukraine, fortunately, we understood what's going on over there, because
what is going on over
we
there?
speak Russian.
Yeah.
We understand what they're talking about in real life, not on Russia today, but in real and the real environment in society. And we see that they had the problem that made our army very weak before 14. And the major problem is a total state environment without private companies, without a freedom to create. And that's the major problem of them. Any idea inside of Russia military business should come from above, not from
very hierarchical.
Yes. You can't generate ideas.
It's interesting because Ukraine, as like you pointed out, is historically Ukроборонпром or MOD or the government had been very difficult to work with. But there's been a need, and there's been sort of volunteers and people with innovation who've made it happen despite the government. And so you've had this it's been by demand, by requirement, a bottom-up innovation as opposed to the top-down that the Russians only allow.
Sure, but I am back that only 20% now of military business is done by state companies.
And that's what was it 8 years ago?
It was 100%. I would say 95%.
So it's been a great transition because
it's a great transition. And now there is an idea that we should go by American style, that you have a grand contractor, and this grand contractor takes like Boeing, like Northrop Grumman or Lockheed Martin. The case they take the contract because they have budgets, they have understanding engineers, and after that they just distribute small contracts to lots of very smart groups that can create these technologies. And now this is a transferring from the old style of working, Soviet style, and Russia didn't pass it. And that's why Ukraine engineering and Ukrainian manufacturing and military business is much more efficient. I would say we are in different, absolutely different now worlds. So
and the way that it's. But what's particularly impressive to us with U.S. background is still how flexible it is and how quickly you can field equipment. You know, I'd love to hear some examples of the gadgets. You know, excuse me for calling them gadgets, but that you or your company has created from the outset of the war. You've shown us goggles because of the problem of soldiers getting blinded by Russian lasers. You've shown us that sniper detection system that was extraordinary. You know, I mean, the thermal protection, right? That disguises your thermal signature from Russian thermals. Basically, there's a lot of thermals.
I mean, you basically are leading probably one of the leading military incubators on the VC model and coming up with all sorts of interesting things, which have a real laboratory to test them and try them out on. Any Western defense contractor I'm sure are or should be looking at Ukraine and should be looking at your company and others like it. Though you're the leader, we won't say who it is, but you're the leader. And anyone who wants to get in touch with you can contact either Andy at the Mozart Group or me at the Ukrainian Freedom Fund, and we'll put you in touch with Q here if you want to get in on the military innovation directly that's going on.
May take some challenges that now exist in this war, and if people around the world, around United States, would like to join, and they have some brilliant ideas or technologies, we can show them a way how to earn money and make a business in this field. Because Ukraine, benefit for Ukraine, I would say now a very strange thing, that Ukraine now it's the best place to test. We are the best marketing place for war already for 8 years. Because if you develop something in Ukraine, next day it will have a real application on front line. You can test it. And real soldiers saying, guys, you're doing shitty things. We don't need it. And next time they say, No, it's good. It could be good, but you need to change the Zs. And after that, you have feedback from your customer. Because when you supply mobile phone, you get this feedback very fast. And that's why Google, Microsoft developing, because they have feedback.
Yeah.
And in military business, this feedback has a long period.
Yeah.
And in Ukraine, it has very short period.
Yes.
Now it's a few hours even.
Yeah.
We've created, you test.
Andy, on the contrary, when you were in Iraq, if you needed an innovation, and special operations would be the first to innovate, how long would it take you to get a requirement?
I mean, the quickest was months and months, basically. I mean, you submit a urgent needs statement, but it's such a bureaucracy, such a hierarchy in the United States that even in the special operations community, it takes a long time, which is why I was very intrigued by what I've seen at your factory. And just for the... I don't know if do you want me to talk about the sniper detection device, or should we not?
It's a great device.
I can talk for a long time. So it's just a matter how much time we have.
Yeah.
But I would better to say not what we have, but what challenges.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, ahead of us, of Ukraine. So I would say a few technologies that now we see that could change this totally, not only this war, but totally will change the future wars. The first technology, I would say, this is protected and secured communication. Because what we see right now that Russia started to use in some way protected technologies. They're using special technologies of that could be easily jumped for their aircrafts, unmanned aircrafts. And these technologies should be done also by Ukrainian side and other sides and other countries in the future. Of course, this technology exists in the United States and Israel, in some countries, but this is a way how smaller countries with lower technologies will go ahead with modern war, only provided that they have this technology of protected communication.
Yeah.
Because, and what we are investing to, this is secured communication in, let's say, I would say it's SDR radio and frequency hopping. So these two ways, this existing technology basically, but it should be done in military products, not in huge prices like right now, but it should be done much easier and cheapest way, and this market will be totally changed. Because what we see now in the market, that in the military market, now I'll say from business point of view, that if someone wants to come to Ukraine, I would explain him that there is a market of of communications, secured communications.
Yeah.
Okay. This brings up an interesting point, because you are then by default a threat to American companies like Harris,
yes,
who have very expensive secure communications. If you can do much more,
I would say it's not a problem only that they have. The problem second is they not have enough.
But what they have, they charge a very high price for, and if you can do it for much less expensively, then they're going to be worried about you. It brings an interesting dynamic to the innovation.
Sure, but the problem right now that Ukrainian army, they are buying the system, they getting the system from the United States, but it's not enough.
Oh,
and it was the same in 14 year, in 15, 16, and right now, and now people are amazed and surprised that we are talking about 8 years already, and again, volunteers going and buy Chinese tactical radios, analog radios. The most funny thing is that Russia has the same problem. They have also analog radios from those sides.
Yeah,
and
which is a good thing.
It's also, we can listen them, they can listen us.
Yeah.
But there are technologies that needs to be installed not on personal. I'm not about now even tactical radio. I'm talking about unmanned systems, because it's very expensive. It's systems that should be very good protected. And those who bring this technology to the market first, they will win the market.
Yeah.
Because around $15,000 it's cost one set. So this is not a price that people can allow in this market.
Yeah.
So it should be much more cheaper. And it should give you tens of kilometers. Okay, let's say 50 kilometers 50 kilometers range.
Yeah.
And it should cost a few $1,000s. So if this technology will be brought to the market, this will be very successful story. The second, mass production. Second, this is a system to jam.
Yeah.
unmanned systems, because unmanned systems showed very, very efficient way. And the main problem behind that people who control the systems, it's already not soldiers. These people are PhD. These people are scientists. They can be located in secure place without risky. They don't need to be, real special Navy, Marine. It could be even a student, but the student is smart and he can control much better than army soldier. And that's what we see.
You're talking about jamming. You're talking about operations in the electromagnetic spectrum, or are you talking about operating unmanned systems?
Yes. Now I'm talking that. Now I'm trying to emphasize that Ukrainian unmanned aerial systems are efficient because in many ways, in many cases, they're controlled not by army soldiers. They're controlled by scientists, people who created that, and these people can be located in approximately safe place. And they don't need to be real army soldiers. They can be mobilized, but they are not soldiers.
Last week I met a company or a group from Western Ukraine who've developed a new very low cost UAV which can bomb with 260 millimeter mortar shells or napalm. They were on the way to the front. They stopped off to introduce themselves to me, looking for help in how they can expand their capability. But it was young scientists, younger than you, who just got together, formed it. And they're on the way to the front to try it out, and they'll go back and they'll refine it.
Developing a precision strike drone, right? Absolutely. That would cost millions and millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and these were for sale. They had the low cost was $4,000, and the high cost was $7,000.
Wow, that's a little scary.
Yeah.
Or the drones that you showed us, where you attach the gimbal to them, and then an RPG 7-round or something, and now you've got precision long-range fires.
Yeah, and this is the next step of war. That this unmanned aircrafts, will be controlled by smart people, not army people, maybe with artificial intelligence.
Notice he said by smart people, not army people.
Sorry, I'm not about Ukrainian army. I'm about Russia army.
Yeah.
That they're stupid, and what they're doing in many cases are very ridiculous from Ukrainian army point of view.
Sure,
But in our army, in many cases, those who control these drones, they're not army people, like said. And this is a challenge that we should be prepared that our enemy would do also the same. It will be smart people who will be using these drones, and we need to understand how to stop it, to jam.
But they won't do that in this fight in the coming months, in the coming 6 months.
This is the challenge for the future wars. So I'm saying that if there would be developed technologies, we basically understand what should be done. It should be low power, low detectable systems, but specially developed to, for example, to jam some kinds of Russia drones. Basically, Russia has 4 drones: Aileron, Arlan, Cube, and Orion, I think. Only 4 types. And these types, we know everything. So if Russia will see me, we know everything, how they are controlled. And now Ukraine, we already able to do in the future months of systems that can jam it and can kill it.
You've reversed engineered them.
Yes.
And in some cases, you're in your factory, right?
It's already reversed. Not my factory, but it's already reversed. And now it's only a challenge how to create. It's basically technologies are not primitive. It's quite developed technologies. So Russia has access to these technologies right now.
But do they have access to the chips? We were talking earlier. But
this is I will tell next step.
Because we have a military audience and they're not that smart, as you pointed out. We only have about 5 minutes left. But
okay, let's say second challenge. This is a jamming. Also, this is a war with rockets, which now goes with low altitudes. I would not say precisely about it, but this is also
cruise missiles. It's relatively slow flying.
Yes, and that's a problem for our cities. You see what's going on.
Yeah.
And also it's suiciders. like switchblades.
Oh, yeah.
cheaper.
Kamikaze drones.
Yeah.
Loitering munitions.
Yeah, it should be around 5-7 kilometers and long range.
Yeah.
So it also should be done cheap.
Yeah.
As soon as it will be cheap with video link, it will be perfect business. And now I'll go to Russia possibilities to create the same technologies. And here we have a very interesting story that even if Russia will be able to buy it somehow, even out of sanctions, I have in my hands now systems that were bought them without sanctions. For example, inside of many components, there is Intel processors, Altera, FPGA.
It's Russian.
It's in Russia, in Russia radios, in Russia thermal video. They have something that they buy somehow. But they are not able to buy not only because of sanctions, but because there is a lack of components in the market in the next 2 years.
Sure.
That's why BMW, Mercedes, Toyota, they stop their manufacturing. Tesla, there is no chips on the market. And those who buy a lot, they can have access to these chips, basically, beforehand for a few years. And Russia will not be able, because it will be very easy to detect, And the problem, electronical market problem right now, playing against Russia. Russia will not be able very fast to make a stock of such components. So we have a few years until they will be able.
Yeah.
And what they need a special, very highly cost and highly performance, like FPGA systems.
Mm-hmm.
And my message also to producers and to sellers of this FPGA on these companies, distributors, just to follow. Because like Altera, Xilinx companies, Lattice, these companies will be in great need from Russia. And because of problems with the market with these components, it's very easy to detect, those who will try to overcome the sanctions.
So if a company violates the sanctions, it'll be easy to find out that they didn't. Yeah,
so
that's good information.
For Ukraine, it's very good situation on the electronic market. I would say that for Russia, it will be very, very hard now to reproduce even what they have right now.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think we're almost out of time here.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just, we had a call just now from listeners asking for an extra 5 minutes with Q.
Okay. Well,
you didn't know it was a live show, but apparently it is.
Okay. Well, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just you had more questions?
Well, actually, Q, why don't you go ahead and tell us what else you wanted to talk about? I want to ask you about manned, unmanned tanks. You made some very perceptive comments the other day, but I want to give you a chance to finish what you wanted to do.
Yeah, first, all companies and people who wants to make military business together are invited to Ukraine. We can support them with all this bureaucracy. We understand how bureaucracy works. And second, my engineer feeling that there is a next step of developing of the war. Not only now unmanned aerial vehicles show their efficiency. Next step is terrestrial land systems. We also invest to that, and I hope, and many companies like Biotechnologies invest, many, like Milburn from Estonia. These companies are only starting this way. Yeah. But this is also the very big step to the next kind of war, where those who will be winning wars will not be army, but it will be a kind of
machines
and people behind these machines. I don't believe in artificial intelligence.
But behind them, but not in them.
Yes, I don't believe in artificial technologies in short terms, so in tens of years. But I believe that people who will doing this next wars, and wars, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay. It will be very smart people who can bring new kind of strategies, tactics like gaming. And next generation of generals will be those who will play now in VR. Watch.
My son's gonna love that scene. Yeah. So I want to pursue something you said, and you mentioned it again, but it's fascinating. When I was fascinated by it when you first brought it up. So you're talking about first of all, I'd like to hear some of the lessons that we should have learned from this war so far about man against tank, about performance of tanks in battle.
I would say that new tanks still are very powerful weapon, but this is powerful if people understand how they should be used.
Mm-hmm.
And I have lots of. I'm now making my collection of applications of tanks in this war. For example, in city war,
Yeah.
it's very powerful weapon, but it should be done a different way. So now we understand some tricks already in tanks. We understand why these tanks were not such an efficient as it was programmed, like by military conception
Yeah.
of Russia use, because Russia used tanks a lot this war and many armored vehicles.
Yeah.
And armored vehicles sometimes for me it's not. I'm super surprised too much. They put inside of a car equipment for $1 million equipment,
Yeah.
and they don't have an armor even on this car. I call BMD4, for example. They have aluminum armor because they should be parachute. How would say it? Parachute.
Lightweight. Yeah.
Lightweight. And
Yeah.
they put a lots of equipment that people cannot use because it's so complicated that I can't use it. And in many cases, it was principal errors, and this is corruption.
Yeah.
Because they buy such an equipment
They get a
because of
commission.
corruption.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, also playing for Ukraine right now. But next concept of tank wars will be, of course, unmanned.
Yeah. Because you have to spend so much on a tank to protect the crew.
Sure.
And yet what do you get out of it? You get a main gun that can fire maybe 2,000 meters, maybe 2,500 meters, but that's it, right? And it's very easy. We've seen relatively easy to destroy or cause what we call a mobility kill on a tank. But if you put people inside, then you make it more vulnerable because the tank can go on firing if it is automatic. But if you stun the crew, they become incapable.
And crew has also nerves.
Yes, they are the weakness in the system.
Which it kind of validates the new Marine Corps policy.
Yeah, that's where I was heading. Yeah. Thank you, General Berger, if you're watching this. Retrospectively, if you want to make me a general, I'd be very happy.
It's the same, not only with tanks, but also with ships. With boats.
Yeah.
The same story. It's going to be unmanned very fast. And here we come back to jamming. We come to communication. Next idea is how to do this communication. And so this is just a way of developing of new smart things in this army. And I am sure that many technologies will come not from military business, but will come from IT business.
They already are, right? I mean, the concept of the Internet of Things is something that we should be seeing with machinery of war, right? Where they are interacting, they're communicating between each other. To your point, there still has to be a human in the loop, but there doesn't have to be humans in those machines.
Yes.
But the humans might be continually pulled back further in the decision loop.
Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated and a bit it's regret for me that this is not the first war when unmanned tanks started to be used.
Yes.
But maybe, I hope that still there is a chance, maybe in some day, that even at this war, first unmanned tank will be used in some application.
Yeah. Unmanned tank.
Unmanned tank. Okay.
Now, but are the Ukrainians developing an unmanned tank? Or are they looking at it? I know you make
I would
tanks,
say it's
right?
not Ukrainian. I would say private companies. Private companies working this way.
Good.
And we have a huge success in that. And I'm sure that in some day, Russians will be very afraid that what they see behind, before them, if there is crew or not, there is a crew. And this is the next step of we call it operations IPSO, informational war operations.
Yes.
If a crew inside of tank doesn't understand if this armored vehicle is manned or unmanned, it will be the next step of the fighting and winning, because tank without crew has much better performance, even if it's shot. And after that, it could change also approach of our enemies to armored vehicles.
Where it can be lighter, a tank with an unmanned, lighter, faster, lower signature, all of these
Everything
things.
could be used.
You've made some great comments, though, about also, I mean, I know,
let me say
Yeah.
the application that is very clear. It's mines, because if you would like to make the mining, and that is our idea, we're trying to move this very fast to the market. If you have lots of mines, it's 300 square kilometers of mines around Ukraine. It was 5 times more than was before war. It's a huge problem with agriculture.
yeah.
It's a huge problem for frontline.
Yeah, we were told 126,000 square kilometers.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And basically, the basic technology is tanks. Tanks go, and just the mines, they don't care if there is mine or not. It's just blow up.
Yeah.
You can't do it by hand, because by your, by my manual, because there is mistake.
Yeah.
For tanks, there is no mistake. It just goes like a big track.
We got involved in this about 6-7 years ago. We looked at this hard, and we looked at technologies using drones to go over, identify mines, and then being able to mitigate them or destroy them from above. And we took this to some of the big demining operations out there, and it wasn't received terribly well, because we showed them that you could do their job a lot more quickly and a lot less expensively than they're doing it now, which then becomes a threat to their operations. And so it gets back to Western bureaucracy, which your innovation is going to undermine. I think that's it's something to consider.
Undermine.
Yeah.
So, as we draw to a close, though, I think the thing that I find also very impressive about you, I know I'm sounding like a sycophant here, but you are very perceptive. You've made some very perceptive comments about the will to fight, right? The will to fight. Not only the difference in resolve between the Russian and Ukrainian soldier, but also, you've somehow ended up as the deputy commander of the Legion, the Foreign Legion, and I know you've discussed the problems of bringing in guys from outside to fight for Ukraine. Can you talk a little bit about that?
About Foreign Legion problems?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Basically, I would say that the major problem for Foreign Legion, it's not fighting. It's everyday common problems living. It's food, it's a place to live, and in many cases it's conflicts. It's like in real army.
Yeah.
And there should be people who, and this is different languages, different cultures. Yeah. I can tell you a story. Azerbaijani Foreign Legion guy said me that he was sent to one of front lines next to Kyiv with pork spam.
Pork, in his rations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was 4 days hungry. So after that he said, no, I don't want to be with this unit given me. So this is a small thing that should be just a bit more deeply concerned, and there should be a special people who work this, because in my environment I have a few people which are talking, some doctors who can care about people, but in other units sometimes there are no, and this starts to be very low moral approach, and people would like to go to fight, and in many cases they are not understand what kind of tasks before. So my idea that we should invite to the Foreign Legion not only people who want to fight, but also people who want to support those who want to fight.
Cooks, barbers, people who do their pay.
Psychologists that can talk to them sometimes, to go to them to not who follow them. Maybe it's a kind of...
And keeping them together.
And keeping them together.
In one unit. That's one thing that surprised me. You distribute them, you lose cohesion, and then you have problems. So.
People leaving, they are back after again leaving, and this is a kind of mass, because in Ukrainian army you have a kind of rule. You can't leave your unit.
Yeah.
But in Foreign Legion, it's like a volunteer.
Yeah.
And in many cases, it should be stuck, something, like adhesive should be.
Yeah.
And
we call it cohesion.
Cohesion.
It binds them together.
Binds together. Yeah. It's not commander in many cases, because commander is from Ukraine. He doesn't speak all languages.
Camaraderie. It's understanding they have a common cause.
Yes.
And sharing danger, sharing all of those things.
So I would invite people to come to Ukraine who wants to help those people to get into. In many cases, I saw it's a few cases already in my experience that people came here, they left Kyiv and said that I will stay after war. And his first question was how much apartment cost in Kyiv. Not where are you gonna find how much. But so people sometimes they see future together with Ukraine.
Yeah.
And this is a great story.
My cousin came out. He's a male nurse who he's actually out in Kharkiv now, undergoing the shelling, helping out there. And he said he wants to retire in Lviv.
Well, it's a great country.
Well, thanks very much for joining us tonight, Q. It's been great to have you. And the audience has kept us over 10 minutes, so you're our most popular guest to date. We appreciate your coming on. I want to thank Andy Milburn, who's got trainers out there getting direct information from all the soldiers fighting the Russians and working with people like you to develop new technologies. And he's relying on donor funding at www.themozartgroup.com. Please help him out.
Please help us out. Yeah, we don't want to run out of money.
And I'm Andy Bain from Ukraine Freedom Foundation. Freedom Fund. You got me going there, Andy.
Is that what I said? I called you Freedom Foundation?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But we're also looking for money at www.theuff.org, and we're buying non-lethal equipment for the Army, and we're a U.S. 501c3. Thanks very much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys, for
It's a great pleasure having you on.
and for your support of Ukraine.
Thank you.